Today we discuss the story of Team Foxcatcher. From an awkward childhood to a life filled with disappointment and loneliness, John du Pont was truly a bizarre individual. Lacking the necessary talent, he started a wrestling club on his family's farm in the 1980s. From there, booze, cocaine, and paranoia took over his life, leading to him isolating most of his athletes and eventually to the murder of one of the most beloved wrestlers. I'm Mike.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Dave. If you thought an episode about an awkward weirdo obsessed with wrestlers was going to be about Mike, stick around. John du Pont is about to one-up his ass. This is Necronomipod.
The standoff between a SWAT team and the heir to a fortune continues tonight. Police say John du Pont shot Olympic wrestling great Dave Schultz last night. Now he's facing off with police as they try to negotiate an end to that standoff. Kristen Z is in Pennsylvania.
Tonight, the phone line to the mansion is working. The line was destroyed in a fire here last October, but it was fixed early this morning. Since then, police negotiators have been calling du Pont approximately once every hour from a locked room at the local fire station, which serves as the command center. Officials characterize the conversations as longer than 30 seconds, but they won't say if du Pont is coherent or despondent. He's refusing to come out, and at this point, police have no plans to force him out.
So off the top, I want to clarify that this is not an episode about professional wrestling. This is the amateur wrestling world.
So real wrestling.
Yeah, real wrestling. And in the intro, I know we alluded to wrestling, but this is not just another typical Mike episode where I'm talking about professional wrestling and its tragedies. Although I do recommend going back and listening to Chris Benoit and Bruiser Brody, which I think is only available on Patreon.
True.
We had an interesting comment on CastBox. I saw it today. I forgot to send it to you.
Really?
Yeah. Someone did not like the Chris Benoit episode.
Yeah?
Because he didn't do that.
Benoit didn't do it.
Yeah, he didn't.
So we have several listeners that are wrestling, like pro wrestling fans, that believe that Chris Benoit did not do it.
This person was pretty angry about it.
Wow. Yeah?
They had some caps. They were typing in all caps at some points. Yeah.
Wow.
Please submit one piece of evidence that shows it was someone other than Chris Benoit. I assure you that evidence does not exist. I want, like, people, when I did that episode, people thought, like, I was happy about it. I fucking loved Chris Benoit. I still watch his matches. I don't want to go back and think of him as a murderer who, took out his 7-year-old son and his wife. All of the evidence leads to Chris Benoit. There is nothing to support anyone else.
What do people think? It's a conspiracy and he was set up?
We talk about it in the show, some of the conspiracies. They think like that Kevin Sullivan, whose wife Benoit later married. Yeah. There was no signs of any forced entry into the home. No signs of distress.
It's something about the text messages. They said something like anybody could have sent those text messages. And
that's their evidence?
Part of the evidence.
Like anyone, okay, all right. What about the fact that Chris called the WWE multiple times throughout the weekend making excuses for why he couldn't make live shows? Meanwhile, his wife and kid were already dead. If they were murdered, why would he not have said something?
It's a great point,
because
Mike.
The autopsy report
timeline doesn't fit.
That Nancy was dead on. I think Nancy died Friday night, Daniel Saturday night or Saturday morning, and then Chris Sunday night. He was making excuses for why he couldn't make events Friday and Saturday. So someone else killed them and broke in, and he decided not to call 911 and made excuses that they had food poisoning. I mean, come on.
Well, you're jumping to conclusions, Mike. Next thing you're going to be saying is Bill Cosby raped all those women.
Jumping to conclusions.
Foster.
I'm literally stating facts. Oh, fucking Bill. I was wondering when we were going to get to that one.
Next thing you're going to be saying is that Bigfoot film is not a person in a rubber suit.
Man. Woo! So, yeah. Well, if you didn't like the Chris Benoit episode, well, okay. Sorry. I spent a lot of time looking into the conspiracies as to why Benoit might not have done it. There is no rational argument or evidence to state that he didn't.
Do better research, Mike.
Yeah, I know. We suck at that.
There's an epidemic of people making that argument when they don't agree with your opinion, your outcome.
Well, in all fairness, I don't know if this guy said I didn't do good research.
No, he was just pretty passionate about the fact that Benoit didn't do it.
I mean,
just in general these days, if people don't agree with what your point of view on something, they're like, well, do better research.
Or if you make an argument, they say, or if you question them on something, they say, well, research it for yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah, maybe I did, pal. Maybe you should redo that episode, Mike, and look at this evidence you've clearly glossed over so haphazardly.
Hey, if someone has evidence, I'd love to see it because I cannot find anything as to why Benoit might not have. But, I'd be happy to do a part 2 where I come out and say, I don't think he did it. New evidence has come forth. You know who did kill someone? John du Pont. There are witnesses.
Indisputable, I think.
To the crime. So anyways, I just wanted to clear that up off the top. This is a, amateur freestyle Greco-Roman wrestling type story. Still true crime. And I think looking at the coverage we did for the month, or we're going to do for the month of July, this is the only confirmed murder we're covering in July.
What?
Isn't that odd?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know. Put that in your weeds pipe and smoke it.
Weeds pipe.
Whatever you use to smoke a weed. I don't know what you guys do. Your recreational activities. But anyways, that's all I had off the top. You guys got anything? I'm going to be taking over this show. So if you guys got anything, now's your time to freestyle.
No, I don't really have anything on my mind.
I'm good.
All right.
Ian and I are just going to veg out here and let you talk for the whole thing. We're not really going to say much.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we're recording this on a Sunday night, which is odd for us. So we're all a little bit out of our, in a funk.
Got wrestling on the TV.
Yeah, we do. Pay-per-view. Professional wrestling. Not the stuff we're going to be covering tonight. So we're still nerding out a little bit.
Tights versus singlets, right?
Well, Kurt Angle might have something to say about that, Allie. Anyways, should I dive in?
Yeah.
Do I have your permission, Dave?
You want my permission? Dive in like it's a new freshman at the fraternity house.
Boom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. So off the top, I just want to throw out some of the sources I used for this episode. There's one good documentary and then another really good documentary. ESPN did one of their 30 for 30s on this story. It's called The Prince of Pennsylvania. I recommend checking that out. And then Netflix has a documentary called Team Foxcatcher, which is really well done. It's probably the best documentary that I've seen on this. I also used the National Wrestling Hall of Fame website for this. And then I read a book. Well, it's called a book. It was more of a pamphlet. It was like 75 pages called Wrestling with Madness by Tim Huddleston. And that was my main source I kind of used for this episode. So I did research. Anyways, all right, let's dive into it. David Leslie Schultz was born on June 6th, 1959 in Palo Alto, California, to parents Philip Gary Schultz and Dorothy Jean St. Germain. He had a younger brother, Mark, and 2 half-siblings. We'll get to Mark more in a little bit here. Schultz began wrestling in middle school after spending much of his childhood being bullied for being overweight and for having dyslexia. He would use this as like a motivation to go on and achieve a lifetime of success in men's freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling.
Mike, can you explain the difference in freestyle or between freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling?
I could. In 1977, as a senior at Palo Alto High School, Schultz...
You could, but you chose not to, apparently. Right,
I answered the question that was asked.
Let me rephrase that. Would you mind explaining the difference?
I'll be honest. I don't know. Do you? Did you look it up?
No.
God damn. No.
It's two different sports in the Olympics, right?
I believe so.
Two different styles of wrestling.
Right. And I don't even know if both even, because wrestling like fluctuates whether or not, like it hasn't been in the Olympics the last, I don't think, couple years, or
what hasn't?
Wrestling in general.
At all?
Like, yeah. Like they had been cut.
Really?
Yeah. It was a big thing in the, the wrestling community that it didn't make the Olympics, or maybe
make way for synchronized swimming, probably.
I mean, you got to have that, right?
Absolutely.
No, I will admit that I actually don't know a lot about the amateur wrestling world. How I was pegged with this episode, I'll never know. But I got it, so I did my best.
I think
I volunteered.
Ian,
for
make
it.
a note to isolate how I was pegged. I'm going to pull that out later.
I think the difference is, or at least in my mind, what I would think is that freestyle wrestling starts on the ground.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and then Greco-Roman is standing on the...
Oh, okay.
I think. I don't know. Every time you watch UFC, and so they have somebody up against the cage and getting underhooks and stuff, they always compliment their Greco-Roman.
Maybe we'll do some mid-show researching, and we'll come back at the end of the show and discuss.
There you go. As I continue here. Either way, just know that Dave Schultz was good at both of them.
Excellent.
You're not going to fuck around with that guy. In 1977, as a senior at Palo Alto High School, Schultz wrestled 2 weight classes above his normal division, managing to pin all of his opponents in that year's state championship, with the exception of his final opponent, who he still managed to defeat on points at a score of 12-1 and win the state championship. Later that year, he won his first national title at the U.S. National Open Greco-Roman Championships, where he also won the award for the most falls in the least amount of time. Dave Schultz's senior year credentials is considered by most experts to be the most successful senior year in U.S. high school wrestling history. Sounds pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Alan Freed, who many consider to be the greatest high school wrestler of all time, went to our high school, Mike.
That's right. I always forget that. And then he went up and...
he went to
did he do the
Oklahoma
Olympics?
or something,
Did he do that?
too. Yeah, I think so, yeah. He graduated. I went to school with him. He was in my class.
The high school we went to is pretty prominent in the state of Ohio for its wrestling. As you can tell, Dave and I did not participate in that endeavor.
Not even a little bit.
No. In college at both Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, Schultz would become a 3-time NCAA All-American, and in 1982, he became the NCAA champion at the 167-pound weight class. In 1984, Schultz qualified for and represented the United States at the Olympic Games, where he would go on to win a gold medal at the 163-pound weight class. At the same Olympics, his younger brother Mark would also go on to win a gold medal at the 180-pound weight class. To this day, the Schultz brothers are the only American brothers to win both a world championship and an Olympic gold medal in wrestling.
It's pretty impressive, huh?
A lot of talent in that family.
Yeah.
And a lot of cauliflower ears as well.
Did they have the cauliflower ears?
I know Mark Schultz does. You see him now in these interviews, and whew, you want like some ranch with all that.
That's
I spit out my drink.
that's a disturbing look, man. I don't know.
I mean, he's a badass dude, but yeah, those wrestlers, whew, I don't envy that. And it's like them with the cauliflower ear and the jiu-jitsu guys with like the broken knuckles in their fingers and their toes. Like,
It's brutal in UFC. A couple of fights when guys' cauliflower ears popped.
yeah. Oh, that just bleeds and bleeds.
Yeah. All that cartilage comes out of it and stuff.
Is it from scraping across the mat, or is it some sort of bacterial infection? Aren't there a couple different ways you can get that cauliflower ear?
I always thought the bacterial one was more like ringworm. No, I don't know. I always thought it was like the contact,
Yeah,
like the
just breaking
blood
the cartilage.
forced, yeah, to like, and it bleeds into the ear.
And like pulling your head out of like a headlock and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Pull your head back, your ears bend.
And they still wear headgear, right? Like that's what's crazy. I don't know. That's
It's a weird looking thing.
a man sport. Hence, I'll watch professional wrestling on TV and. Whew, they're tough dudes. Anyways, they both won Olympic gold medal and world championships. In all, between 1980 and 1996, Dave Schultz would go on to win 7 world championships and 1 Olympic gold medal. His quest for an 8th world title and a second Olympic medal would eventually be cut short by his untimely death. And we'll be back for part 2 next week.
Mike likes to break his up into multiple parts. Yeah. So it's going to be 10, 20-minute episodes.
This 8 pages of notes is going to be 20 episodes. So focusing a little bit on Dave Schultz, the person, and this is kind of where most people in the wrestling community really are drawn to Dave. It's been said that for all of his achievements on the mat, he's best known as wrestling's greatest friend and diplomat across the nation and around the world. He was always one of those guys that had time to talk. He always wore a smile. He had sportsmanship. His sportsmanship transcended national boundaries. He even learned Russian so that he could communicate with other wrestlers and learn more about the business or about the sport and just kind of bond with them. He even named his son Alexander after a friendly rival from the USSR. And again, this was like in the 80s when, they were
that's
at
pretty cool.
odds. Yeah. By his own admission, Schultz, quote, wasn't the greatest athlete in wrestling, but he was one of the most intelligent wrestlers in the history of the sport. Schultz once told one of his mentors, quote, I cheated. I learned how to wrestle. And by that, it meant like he learned how to use people's bodies against them, how to use their momentum. Kurt Angle recently on one of his podcasts described it as like Dave had like, even though he wasn't an old man, he had old man strength. Like he was just like a smaller, wiry guy who just could overpower anybody just because he learned how to manipulate people's bodies. He was respected by everyone in the sport of wrestling and was seen as a happy, humble friend to all. He was also the ultimate family man. He married his wife Nancy in 1980, and together they had 2 kids, Alexander and Danielle, who he loved dearly and always made time for, even when he was training. While still focused on his own career, Schultz spent a lot of time coaching other wrestlers as well. Throughout his life, he spent time coaching at the University of Oklahoma, Stanford University, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. One of the young wrestlers whose career Schultz would have a hand in shaping was that of Kurt Angle, future Olympic gold medalist and WWE wrestler. In the early 1990s, Dave Schultz accepted an invitation to become a coach at the highly popular Team Foxcatcher, a wrestling team his brother Mark had previously been training with. Foxcatcher was started by a very eccentric, bizarre, and obsessive billionaire named John du Pont.
Was he actually a billionaire?
DuPont's pretty damn big, right? I looked it up because I initially saw millionaire, and then I looked up what the DuPonts were worth, and I saw billion.
The family, but it's all split. Yeah.
The family is worth it was $1 billion family.
Yeah.
His actual, I don't know, but they, as we'll get into in a minute here, this family was worth a ton. John E. DuPont was born November 22nd, 1938, to parents Jean and William DuPont. The DuPont family had become wealthy during the War of 1812 when their gunpowder business became extremely profitable. Then, during the Civil War, the DuPonts became the Union Army's chief supplier of gunpowder and explosives. By the 20th century, the DuPont business would eventually expand to create nylon, polyester, Kevlar, Teflon, and Lycra spandex. And a fun note, in order to keep their wealth completely within the family, the DuPonts had a practice of only marrying their own cousins. However, this practice was seemed to slow down by the end of the 19th century.
And pick up substantially in Arkansas and Alabama and Mississippi.
And never
allegedly
slow down. So they kept tight that money. Can you imagine having a gunpowder business and then war breaks out?
Yeah.
You're like, fuck yeah. This might be all right for us. And DuPont's still around today.
Yeah, they're poisoning, was it Parkersburg, West Virginia, where they poisoned all the water and air supply?
How dare you get political, sir? This is about wrestling.
That Dark Water book and movie with,
that's fine.
Coincidentally enough, Mark Ruffalo was about DuPont, wasn't it?
And Mark Ruffalo was in, Dave's alluding to the Foxcatcher film that Steve Carell, Mark Ruffalo, and Channing Tatum were in.
Yeah, but DuPont's done some not great stuff to people.
Next, you're going to tell us Flint doesn't have drinking water, but that's fine.
Only in America.
Any hoodles. John DuPont grew up in a very well-off family and was raised on a horse farm in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, called Lysander Hall. As he grew up, he became a very awkward-looking young man with a large nose, yellow teeth, and a lack of chin. He was a withdrawn young man who didn't associate much with others. When attending an exclusive private high school, he realized that even among the social elite as his family was, he didn't fit in. So he was just a loner from the get-go. And also an extremely just ugly, weird-looking individual, which is not his fault.
Well, pro tip, if you don't have a chin, grow a beard.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I don't have a chin at all. There's just a big crater there. You guys don't know that, though.
It's true. Don't know.
I overcompensate for my lack of a chin.
I was going to say, going back to pro wrestling, again, I'm tying this back. Kevin Nash has always had a goatee because he said he has a weak chin. It doesn't look good.
Doesn't look manly.
Yeah, and I guess you mean like a prominent, it almost just kind of looks like it just goes into your neck, sort of. Yeah. And that's, John DuPont was just a kind of odd looking guy, and it didn't help that he had worse behavior and was kind of sheltered away from everybody because they were, they had millions and millions and maybe billions of dollars.
Sure.
You remember when you had to shave your beard a couple years ago?
I was just going to say that.
He was walking by my house a couple years ago.
It was right after I met him, too.
Yeah. And he waved, said hi to me. I'm like, all right, hi, dude. I didn't realize it was him because I never seen him without a beard before.
You mean the same guy, Ian, who, a few weeks ago, drove right past me as you waved to me walking to Dave's house and didn't recognize one of your best friends in the world? You literally look at my face when we're recording twice a week for the last 2.5 years. You waved to me and drove right by and did not realize it was me. I would never guess that you wouldn't recognize Dave without a beard.
I was real confused for a second.
Unreal. So DuPont withdrew. He became a loner. He didn't have friends and he never dated. But he did realize he didn't need to make friends because people can be bought. He graduated from high school in 1957, and a few years later, he began attending the University of Miami. It was during this time at Miami that DuPont began focusing on athletics. It was his dream to become an Olympic athlete. However, he lacked talent in pretty much all sports.
Yeah, meet this my dream too, and I like talent in all sports,
And
except curling. I might be able to. If I start practicing, I can make the Olympic team in curling.
so?
Maybe
Yeah. Drinking beers. Drinking beers.
Yeah, you can drink beer and do curling.
I just mean Olympic sport, drink beer.
Oh, okay.
And to be fair, he wasn't a bad athlete, but he was nowhere near Olympic level. So, you know, it wasn't that he sucked,
Just
but you're not going to make the Olympics. Yeah. After leaving school, DuPont, using his checkbook, managed to get a spot on the prestigious Santa Clara Swim Club in California, where he would be able to train with swimmers who were preparing for the 1964 Olympics.
Did he just give people money, or did he like kind of donate the stuff to organizations that
He
people
would,
were-
he would in a lot of situations donate. Like he set up museums. He was really big into birds. He was big into he started a stamp collection. So he would donate money, but when he wanted it, he would donate with a caveat of, oh, by the way, hey, can I come train with you? You know, here's $500,000 for your program. I'm going to show up with my Speedo and jump in your water. As the Olympic Games approached, DuPont was forced with the realization that he just couldn't cut it in the swimming world. His teammates, however, sat him down and told him he should try his hand at the pentathlon. Given that he grew up on a horse farm, his family built their fortune. Or I guess we should say the pentathlon it's a ridiculous Olympic sport that involves horseback riding, shooting firearms, swimming, running, and fencing. All in one. Now, how it exactly works, I'm not even sure the exact rules.
There's some weird Olympic things where they pair stuff like that. Like, who came up with that?
I mean, and then like also, could you make more of a sport for like the wealthiest of the wealthy people?
Yeah, right.
Like they're like, we need a sport for like white people where we could just win all the time. I know. Let's do this, and this.
fencing.
So
What's the Winter Olympics one where you cross country ski for a little bit, then you stop and shoot, and then you cross country ski a little more?
Then you do a shot of fireball, and then you move on, and then like you have to Greco-Roman wrestle a penguin. Yeah.
The biathlon, is that what that's called?
I don't
It's
know.
so fucking weird.
Fun fact: I would watch an Olympic sport where you have to wrestle a penguin, and I would watch the penguin like peck the fuck out of a person. Like it's on ice, so the penguin has a little bit of an advantage, given that humans have the size. You would watch that, right?
For sure.
Penguin just kicking the shit out
Of course. With Morgan Freeman narrating. He's the announcer, like in that Penguin movie.
They mute all the sound of the crowd, and it's just Morgan Freeman announcing as like a penguin pecks a human to death. All right, so the pentathlon, he started training for that. He already had, he grew up on a horse farm. He knew how to ride. His family built their fortune on firearms. He knew how to shoot. He was already a swimmer. He had that. He just had to start running and learning how to fence. He built running trails all throughout the family farm just so that he could start preparing for that, and then started taking lessons on fencing and learning how to do it.
I bet fencing's fun. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
I'd give it a try, I guess.
I'd try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it would seem cool.
You get a point if you poke them.
Yeah. Right?
That's what I gave myself points for in college. Ended up with 4,368,221 points and a half. Anyways. So he started doing the pentathlon, and after having some initial early success, like he won a national competition in Australia, which if the country's made up, I think, maybe the competition was, because he hosted the 1967 National Pentathlon Championship on his farm, and he wound up finishing 14th. When it came time to qualify for one of 3 spots on the 1968 Olympic team, DuPont finished 21st out of 22 qualifiers.
At least it wasn't 22nd.
He was not. His Olympic dreams were officially over.
It must be nice to just be able to buy your way into whatever you want to do,
And that's we're kind of laying the groundwork for how he lived the rest of his life. Like any problem, I can make it go away. If I want to fit in, I'll buy my way in. I mean, his family was prominent. You can search John du Pont. There's pictures of him with like presidents because his family was very well off, and you know, they donated money, and he was a philanthropist. He gave money, and you know, but it was his way. He was doing it to try to be accepted and to try to fit in. And then he would later learn, like, hey, you know, money can also kind of help you if you're in a situation too. So
that's usually the case.
Yeah. It's interesting to note here that in 1974, a girl named Patty Hearst, who came from a very wealthy family, was abducted, and this became a major news story across the country. The whole incident greatly disturbed Du Pont, and this was the start of his paranoia, which would only increase with his age and with his drinking and drug use.
Is that on our list? Symbionese Liberation Army story?
Yeah.
I'll have to do that one day. That's interesting.
That's really interesting because Jim Jones got involved in that whole Patty Hearst stuff.
Oh, what did he do?
He was setting up like a foundation to try and look good, but then on the back end of it, he was, you know, all about the communist stuff.
So he was financing those guys?
No, he was just in support of it. Like there's tapes of him in support of it, but then on the public end of it, he was
sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But he was all about the whole Patty Hearst stuff.
That's a crazy story. I'll have to get into that someday.
So it really fucked with DuPont's head, and this made him paranoid. He had all of the Leicester farm gated and secured. The only way in and out of his property at this point would now be through a security gate at the front entrance. DuPont also decided to use his financial influence now to get cozy with the Newtown police. Over the years, he would donate millions of dollars to the police department, providing them with the latest and greatest body armor, offered them the use of his personal helicopter, and allowed them to use his farm as a shooting range. While the police stated this did not win DuPont any special treatment, he was given a police radio and a badge as a, quote, honorary officer. And as we'll later discuss, he was treated differently whenever shit went down. There's video of him out there shooting with the police, like on his range. And, you know, there were some officers lived on his property. He had multiple houses on this farm. He would house some of the police officers. So, you know, it's almost like an Epstein type thing where, you know, you're not paying their wage, but you're living on his farm. He's protecting you with his body armor, a helicopter for your use.
So are you suggesting you can curry favor with the police by giving them money?
I would never.
Okay.
I'm simply stating what John du Pont did. In 1982, du Pont met a 29-year-old woman named Gail Wenck. They would marry the next year in 1983. However, the marriage would not last long. Du Pont's paranoia led to him trying to control Wenck's every move. On top of that, his drinking was increasing, and on multiple occasions, du Pont would physically abuse her and threaten to kill her, telling her that nobody would ever find her body, and even if they did, nothing would happen because he controlled the police. Their marriage was annulled after 90 days, and they officially divorced in 1987.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Very quick.
I was reading a little bit about that. He was accusing her of being a Russian spy and whatnot, which I think we'll see later in the story.
He started accusing everybody. Yeah. You know, anyone that his head, like he was a sick individual, but he thought everybody was out to get him. Yeah. And, would hold her down and like hold a gun to her head or choke her and threaten her. And, she put up with it the first few times. And then eventually was like, okay, this is not the guy that.
She probably pinned him because he came in 21st out of 22nd.
Well, on the pentathlon, there was no wrestling in that. We'll get into his wrestling career here in a minute. So by now in his 40s, du Pont was ready to move on to his next athletic endeavor. In 1986, and Ian, this goes back to what you asked, he donated millions of dollars to Villanova University so they could build a new basketball arena. In return, by the way, it was called like DuPont Arena. In return, of course, DuPont asked that they start up a wrestling program and name him the head coach, even though he only had 1 year of wrestling experience, which dated back to his freshman year of high school. And also Villanova was like, people aren't even asking for a wrestling program. Like, okay. Like, you're not going to turn down millions of dollars. So they're like, okay, we'll do it. Du Pont had always loved the sport of wrestling, but his family wanted him to be successful in what they considered a more upscale, non-barbaric sport. Like
badminton or something. Polo.
Sure.
Fencing.
Fencing.
They came from, horse riding. They were into all that. And the pentathlon probably was perfect for him. Now that all those other avenues, though, were closed, he went all in on wrestling. He went about putting together the best coaching lineup he could, including hiring Mark Schultz, Dave's younger brother. The program at Villanova, however, was not long for this world, as it shut down after only 2 years due to DuPont's erratic behavior, disregard for NCAA rules, and his excessive drinking. At one point during this time, DuPont was driving while extremely drunk, hit a guy with his car, and drove from the scene of the accident saying he had a plane to catch. Given his status and wealth, DuPont was only forced to pay a $42.50 fine. And fortunately, the victim survived the hit. And they said that nothing ever went further because the victim, incidentally, never filed any charges.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird because special treatment like that never happens to wealthy people. Very surprised by that.
Now, the disregard for NCAA rules is that, like, I heard he was just going around, like, you can, and I don't know the specifics, but like he was just offering money to other college wrestlers to just leave and come over to Villanova. Like, just illegally recruiting people, like, just come on over.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. So no. But and this was also a time, his drinking was up. He probably started dabbling into cocaine at this time. And it was just all funny. He can make anything go away, all the problems. In 1988, DuPont's mother had passed away, leaving him in sole possession of Lysander Hall Farm. With the wrestling program at Villanova shut down, DuPont decided to change the name of the farm to Foxcatcher Farm and turn the property into an elite wrestling club.
Where does the name come from?
So it was actually named after his dad's horse racing team, which was called Foxcatcher back in the day. So he changed the name to Foxcatcher Farm and was going to turn the property into an elite wrestling club. He built a state-of-the-art facility and began recruiting the best wrestlers in the world to come train for him. What's interesting is that it really wasn't that difficult for DuPont to recruit the top wrestlers in the world, as up to that point, there was no money in the wrestling business. I mean, unless you're going like professional, but for like actual, the athletes who are training for the world competitions and the Olympics, there was no money in it. They were essentially living hand to mouth while training, while their competitors, the Soviets, were being paid salaries and given health insurance while training. And so the American wrestlers were just living, making ends meet while trying to train.
That was a problem with a lot of Olympic sports back then. I mean, the Soviets were paying all of them and, quote, amateur wrestler, amateur athletes. And until they changed all those rules, like if you remember basketball before, professional, before the Olympic basketball team was full of NBA players, like back when professional athletes couldn't actually be in the Olympics. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I've had this debate with many people.
It's a little silly. I don't know, but you have to.
Go ahead. I asked you a question.
No, go ahead.
So I understand that you want, amateur. You want it to be, to a fair playing field. But at the same time, like if you're trying to win a gold medal, I want to know that I'm the best in the world. And I look at hockey, for example. Well, okay, you won a gold medal as an amateur in the Olympics, but the best in the world playing the NHL. I want to play against them and win a gold medal.
I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be an amateur kind of thing, but then the Russian bloc was, essentially supporting making them professional athletes.
Well, yeah, they found their way around.
So so it was never fair. So I think it even the playing field.
But I just feel like if you're a basketball player, and you win a gold medal, you really know you're not the best in the world.
It's supposed to be an amateur competition, though. I don't know.
And that's fine too. But then I just think the gold medal kind of feels different, right? Like you're the best. Okay, so you're the best who's not good enough to get paid to play.
Well, but only a few of those have actual professional athletes.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, I'm not talking about all the Olympic. Yeah, I understand.
Like there's no professional gymnast. You know what I mean?
It comes to like basketball.
It's just a few situations.
Probably just basketball.
I don't know. There's no correct answer. I don't know what the answer is. But
you mean there's no professional swim league? You can go watch it like the Q, the PSL, Professional Swim League, live.
I mean, historically, it's supposed to be amateur sports, and I
watch Michael Phelps smoke a blunt and then swim 500 meters in 12 seconds.
So I don't know what the right answer is there, but the Russians were skirting those rules anyway. So what's the difference?
So the point is, at this time, the Americans were legit amateurs. They were, living off whatever they could to get by, training when they could. Like, Dave Schultz, we're going to get to in a minute, was coaching on the side while trying to train in whatever facilities he could. Now DuPont's building this Olympic-style training facility, offering them, we'll get into it, offering them lodging and access to his mansion and, paying for whatever they might need. And, obviously it was easy to attract wrestlers to that.
Yeah, I mean, he was evening the playing field as a benefactor, just like the Russian state and all those Eastern Bloc countries were doing.
And in DuPont's mind, like, this was his, like, acceptance. These people now liked him. He was around Olympic athletes, which he always wanted to be. He considered himself almost like the head coach of Team Foxcatcher. Again, with 1 year freshman high school wrestling experience. And he's bringing in, like, Dave Schultz, who won an Olympic gold medal in 1984.
He's like Al Bundy. I played high school football.
Right. Or if I'm fucking Napoleon Dynamite, I could throw a football clear over those mountains.
Fucking sidearms.
Was Uncle Rico. In 1989, top wrestlers from all over the country began coming to Foxcatcher Farm to train. One of them was Dave Schultz. Dave's brother Mark had been with DuPont since joining him at Villanova a few years earlier. And although Mark experienced some success in his career training in DuPont's program, DuPont's antics were starting to take their toll on Mark, and he began to see DuPont as a toxic individual. Not only was DuPont paranoid and an alcoholic, he was doing excessive amounts of coke, offering it to the wrestlers, and behaving very oddly, like becoming obsessed with Mark and wanting to control his entire life. DuPont also began setting up recording cameras on random parts of his property. He would then sit there and rewatch hours of random footage, like literally hours of just the trees blowing in the wind or the clouds passing by in the sky. And DuPont was convinced he would see things or figures or shadows moving in the video. He would make other people watch him with him, but nobody ever saw anything of concern other than DuPont. So anyways, Dave Schultz was set to begin his journey at Foxcatcher as Mark Schultz decided to retire and move on.
Did Mark try to warn Dave at all?
Yeah,
about coming into this situation?
Mark tried telling him, like, hey, this is not a good environment. This guy's weird. He's paranoid. He's toxic to your training. Like, it's just something's off here. But again, this was a facility that nobody ever had access to before. There were still a bunch of wrestlers there in training, and they were thriving, like they were doing well, but you just had to get past the bullshit of DuPont. Like he would have you over and, like into his mansion on the property and like make you like listen to the walls and like tell you like there's a guy in that wall. He's going to try to come out and kill me tonight, but I'll shoot him first. Like just random stuff like that. Like if you could put up with that, because it wasn't 24/7, but he would go through like just periods and, where he would just, go manic or something would happen and he would just be so paranoid. And if you can get past that, then other than that, he was a reserved, quiet guy and he was paying you and you had a place to stay and you had all access to this facility. So,
which doesn't come along every day. So when you get something like that, it's hard to turn down. Sure.
Right. And so Mark tried telling Dave like, hey, this is why I'm out of here. But Dave's like, look, I packed up my family. We committed to DuPont to come here and, I'm going to make it work. And as we'll get to in a minute, Dave and DuPont had a good, bond with each other. So, yeah. Did you watch the 30 for 30?
No, I only watched the Netflix one.
The 30 for 30, I believe, is the one that's all done like with Mark, like in the documentary. So Mark kind of tells the whole story of everything, which is really good if you want to hear it from his perspective.
Right.
So I don't think he was even a part of the Netflix one.
I don't remember.
I remember seeing him in that at all.
A lot of the people who are interviewed in it, and some of them, was it Dan Shade, who we'll talk about here later. He was a part of both, but Mark was only a part of the ESPN one, and he tells a lot about his experiences with John du Pont. If you watch the Foxcatcher movie, they allude to DuPont almost being homosexual and like coming on to the wrestlers, but I've not seen anything that was like proven for sure that he was like that or that he would, make advances on anybody. But they allude to that in the Foxcatcher movie a lot. So anyways, take that for what it is. either way, DuPont was, he became like kind of obsessed with some of these guys because this was the life he wanted to live. He wanted to be one of these top athletes, and he was lonely and a bit deranged, and, figured he paid for everybody. So
He could do what he wants.
He can do what he wants. Is there something interfering with your happiness? Something keeping you from achieving your 2020 goals? Let's face it, these are certainly trying times. From being cooped up inside your home to wondering how you're going to pay next month's bills, we're all experiencing some form of stress or strain on our mental health. And for that, BetterHelp is here for us. BetterHelp is an online mental health provider that will assess your needs and match you up with your own licensed professional therapist. The best part? No waiting rooms. That's a pretty big deal if you're as impatient as I am. BetterHelp is a safe and private online environment that will have you communicating with a counselor within the first 24 hours. And once you've begun, you can send your counselor a message at any time, always getting a helpful response in a timely manner. You even have the ability to schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all from the comfort of your very own couch. BetterHelp is available worldwide and has a broad range of expertise available, including licensed professional counselors who specialize in depression, stress, anxiety, relationships, sleeping, trauma, anger, family conflict, LGBT matters, grief, and self-esteem. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're currently recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. Not happy with your counselor? No worries. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches and makes it easy and free to change counselors if needed. Remember, everything you share with your BetterHelp counselor is completely confidential. And while it's not a crisis line, it is a convenient, professional, and affordable way to seek the help you deserve. Financial aid is even offered to those who qualify. Want to hear how BetterHelp assisted people just like you? Check out the testimonials posted daily on their site. Look, we here at Necronomipod want you to start living a happier life. So, as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/necro. Join over 1 million people already taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/necro. Dave Schultz moved his family into one of the homes located on Foxcatcher Farm, and he and DuPont hit it off immediately. As we stated, Dave was a genuinely kind and nice individual. He felt bad for DuPont and saw a lot of himself in DuPont. Wrestling for Dave was an outlet for the bullying and the dyslexia he endured as a child, and he believed that wrestling was an outlet for DuPont and his loneliness. The two shared a bond for many years, and DuPont found himself really fond of Dave. Dave Schultz supported him, validated him, and helped train him to learn more about the sport of wrestling. DuPont, now at the age of 55, even began wrestling in senior competitions. Oftentimes, his Foxcatcher teammates would pay off his opponents to let DuPont win. If you watch some of the videos of these competitions, it's really uncomfortable and weird.
Lay on top of them. Lay on top of them.
It's like just two old men like in singlets rolling around on a mat, like not knowing what they're and maybe the competitor knows what he's doing, but like maybe he was paid off, so he's like, I'm literally laying here, and DuPont doesn't know how to pin me. But yeah, just odd. And, just trying to help validate DuPont. And anytime DuPont would win, like, it was the greatest thing of his life. Like, he was so proud, and it was such a badge of honor for him.
All that money, and you can do anything in the whole world. And, like, that's what you want to. I mean, that's your deal.
I get the Olympic thing. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then, like, just give him the platform and then just step back, wear your jersey to the competitions and stand like in the owner's box or something. You know what I mean? As the years went on, DuPont's paranoia was getting worse. He believed that his, quote, enemies were out to get him and were watching his every move, even while he was inside his own home. He was sure that somebody was going to kill him in his sleep. Because of this, DuPont started to withdraw from the Foxcatcher team. He didn't trust anyone and believed maybe even somebody on the team was out to get him. He just needed to figure out who this was.
Was he getting any sort of mental health treatment?
No.
Whatsoever? Nothing.
So, at different times, the wrestlers would approach him about treatment for like his alcoholism. He would write it off or say, no, my family will disown me if they know I had a problem. They would, they would take away my money and, however it was set up. So the people reached out to help him in general, but he didn't want it. He shrugged it off and, played it off like he was fine. And they were careful because he was a wild card. And if you came at him like that, you might now be looked at as the enemy.
Yeah, right.
And as we're going to get into here in a bit, like he was not afraid to approach people that he thought were against him.
What age did we say what age he was when all that paranoia started?
So that would have been, I guess my notes. He was born in 1938, and that abduction was in 1974. What's the math on that, Dave? 30-something years old?
36.
Yeah.
36.
So he was 36 years old. You can clean that up however you want.
What's the abduction? What are we talking
That was
about?
the
Patty Hearst.
the Patty Hearst.
Oh,
when he
okay.
started going paranoid,
Got
or
it.
like one of the first early tells that he was going paranoid. So he was in his mid 30s when it started. But again, we don't know because he had such a sheltered life. He didn't really associate with many people. Who knows what was going on? And he wasn't exactly open about this prior to. So in 1993, DuPont hired Aegis Security to search his property for these alleged enemies that DuPont thought were hiding in the walls of his home, and to dig up the ground on his property to look for secret tunnels that DuPont thought his enemies were using to break into his farm. And from what I read, Aegis, and especially DuPont's private security officer through Aegis, Patrick Goodell, they didn't necessarily play into his fears, but they accommodated every request he had because they knew they were going to be making money.
Cha-ching!
So, you
Hell
have
yeah.
people on your walls? Absolutely. We'll look into that.
We'll
for
get
you.
rid of those.
Let's take down your walls. Oh, you want us to dig up your land and over there? Of course we will, because you want to be the safest you can be.
Oh, yeah.
So that just helped, perpetuate his paranoia and think, okay, see, these guys are on my side. They understand. They get it.
Yeah.
In actuality, they knew they could just get that bank account.
Absolutely.
They can run them dry. In total, DuPont spent over $200,000 on Aegis services, investigating his farm for non-existent threats. Meanwhile, DuPont's behavior was still becoming increasingly worse. He once ordered all treadmills to be removed from his property because he thought they were speaking to him.
Hey, my Peloton bike speaks to me. It's like, hey, fatty, get on the bike.
As you walk by with like a mouthful of pizza rolls, you just like use your foot to close the door and keep on walking. You're like,
I'm with him on that one.
Another time, he intentionally drove his car into a pond, almost drowning his passenger. And from what I read, the passenger was like a higher up official from USA Wrestling that DuPont was just, acting odd and drove into the pond. And two, if it wasn't for DuPont being like a previous swimmer, because we said he was good, just not great for Olympic, that the guy would have died, but DuPont saved his life.
It's great. It's
And
funny.
again,
I watched that documentary today. Apparently, he got a loaner when it happened, and the next day he drove it right back into the pond again, like 2 days in a row.
Just ridiculous behavior. Another thing, like he bought an old tank from the United States government. He was probably still, the ammo business and all that. He bought a tank and then just rolled up onto his property with this big ass tank that he now bought. He loved
that repetitive
firearms.
stuff's interesting. Like, I think this guy's clearly showing signs of schizophrenia.
Oh yeah.
But there was, at this point, he was no family really, like, because he didn't talk to extended, and then everyone else there was kind of essentially on his payroll, and they liked him. But when they reached out, like he would get crazy back to them, like, and they didn't want to be kicked off the farm,
Right.
So it's who's going to do something.
There's something to that with schizophrenia, with repeating things. Remember Joseph Callinger would break out that guy's windows?
Every day.
Yeah, go over and fix them for him. Then the same
right.
night he'd be out there breaking them again.
Interesting.
Yeah, and John Benet Ramsey's dad, just breaking windows to get in the basement every day. You're like, motherfucker, you're like a millionaire. You got a front door. No, I'm going to break this window, dive in. And I'm not going to use the ssame hole next time. I'm going to go in another window. Middle of January in fucking Colorado. So we talked about, driving his car into the pond. And then another thing he did, which was worst of all, DuPont eventually told all the African-American wrestlers on his farm to leave, as Foxcatcher was now becoming a KKK organization because DuPont felt the color black meant death.
Oh boy.
Now, they didn't actually become a part of the KKK, right. But in his, sick mind, black in general just meant death. And he had really good wrestlers training there that were African-American that, he forced out of because of his own.
Damn, it's
sick
bizarre.
brain. Yeah. At the talking weird. At the 1995 World Wrestling Championships, DuPont attended with the rest of Team Foxcatcher, but he distanced himself from everyone else and refused to speak with anyone who didn't address him directly as Dalai Lama. Throughout all these issues and DuPont's downward spiral in the early 90s, the one person he constantly trusted, other than Patrick Goodale, his Aegis security guard, was Dave Schultz. DuPont saw Schultz as his protector and friend, and no matter who else might be against him, there was no way Schultz could be a part of the conspiracy to kill him. And I think that goes back to just the kind of person Schultz was. He was always comforting the DuPont, didn't really play into his fears, but would just tell him, hey, everything's okay. No one's out to get you. Just a genuinely good guy who, DuPont felt that kinship to, and he was the one guy he trusted.
So whatever happens in the story through the end here, Dave's probably good because he's his one dude.
And we'll touch on that next week in part 3. Ian has a boner. Seth Rollins just walked out on the pay-per-view. Oh, boy. In October of 1995, DuPont approached one of the wrestlers training at Foxcatcher, Dan Shade, as Shade was lifting weights. DuPont walked right up to Shade, pointed a machine gun at him, and said, quote, "Don't fuck with me. I want you off this farm." Needless to say, Shade didn't argue. He left Foxcatcher and went straight to the Newtown Square police. However, the cops didn't take Shade seriously. They knew DuPont and liked him, obviously, and they wouldn't allow Shade to press charges or even file a complaint. Shade left town, and this was the last straw for several of the Team Foxcatcher athletes. Many of them approached USA Wrestling and asked that they cut ties with Foxcatcher, citing DuPont's behaviors as a major risk to the athletes. In the end, though, due in part to Schultz's defense of DuPont, as well as a $400,000 donation to USA Wrestling, they decided not to sever ties with Team Foxcatcher, and nothing was ever done about the incident between DuPont and Shade. Can you imagine you're in the gym lifting weights, and then he walks up to you with a machine gun pointed right at you?
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's got to write a check, though.
And then writes a check. And then even Schultz stuck up for him.
Well, money talks, bullshit walks, Mike. Am I right?
Yeah. About a month after Shade left Foxcatcher Farm, he returned one final time to pick up a van he had left at Schultz's house on the property. While there, he pleaded with Schultz to leave the team. But Schultz felt he owed much of what he had to DuPont. Schultz was making a decent living, had a place to live, and was preparing to qualify for the 1996 Olympics. He chose not to leave. When DuPont learned that Shade had been back on the farm and at Schultz's house, he believed that Schultz was hiding Shade in his home and protecting him. DuPont showed up at Schultz's house one day, bombed out of his mind, and began accusing Schultz of hiding Shade somewhere in the home. DuPont felt betrayed. Like we said, this was the guy he trusted the most. It was Dave Schultz, and now he's learning that the guy he just kicked off of his farm is back, and now he thinks Dave is hiding him.
Kind of coordinating or planning the plot with the one guy he can trust.
Right. I can break it down for you, Dave. As a Christian, it's like he's the Judas.
Oh, okay.
You might get that.
30 pieces of silver.
It's a Bible reference.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
More of that on Bible Babble with your pal Dave. Patreon.com. DuPont trusted Schultz, and now in his mind, Schultz was a traitor. Schultz, being the nice guy that he is, simply calmed the belligerent DuPont down and drove him back to his mansion. But now the seeds had been planted in DuPont's mind. Not long after this incident, there was a party thrown by some of the wrestlers on the farm. Schultz, who was just relaxing from his training and trying to have a good time, began shooting off bottle rockets. This led to DuPont, who was at the party, to tell another wrestler that he knew someone was out to get him, and now he had just identified the threat.
Oh, back up, DuPont, back up. Oh, shit, DuPont, back up.
On January 26th, 1996, Dave Schultz was in his driveway on Foxcatcher Farm working on his car when he heard another vehicle pulling up. He turned to see DuPont driving up with Patrick Goodale, the head of security, sitting shotgun. As the window rolled down, Schultz smiled and waved and said, "Hey, coach." At this point, DuPont stuck his arm out the window, pointed a .44 revolver at Schultz, and asked him, "You got a problem with me?" Before Schultz had a chance to answer or even realize what was going on, DuPont pulled the trigger and shot at Schultz, hitting him in the elbow. Goodale yelled and asked DuPont what he was doing as DuPont fired a second shot at Schultz, which hit his chest and sent him face first into the snowy ground. Schultz's wife, Nancy, heard the shots and ran out of the home onto the porch just in time to see DuPont fire a third and final shot into Schultz's back. She rushed back into the house to call 911.
How about the security guy takes the gun away from him?
Not much of a security guy.
Yeah.
No.
There are conspiracies that people think that it was security that were in DuPont's mind that led him to do this. That they were the ones that like instigated all of this. Now I'm not, I don't know if any of that is true or how much merit there is to that, but there is people that think that. But I think it also happened quick, and he didn't take the gun away, which maybe he should have, but he's also sitting right next to him in the car. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, that would have been nice. But he was also DuPont security. He wasn't anybody else's security. How do you,
Well, but still, I mean,
you would think you would save somebody's life.
And you'd be protecting your client by taking the gun away from him. Just my opinion. I could be wrong.
I don't disagree. On the phone with the Newtown Square police, Nancy tried to explain what had happened. But when she mentioned that DuPont was involved, the dispatcher almost didn't seem to believe her. She was asked repeatedly if it was an accident or intentional and why DuPont would do something like this. She finally yelled hysterically into the phone, "He's insane."
That's weird. Cops didn't like, what do you mean? He's a good dude.
And
couldn't possibly be committing a crime.
I don't think they hesitated to send to dispatch people there.
Right.
But, just the questioning. And you can hear parts of the 911. We tried to find it. Ian, I know you looked too. We can't find the full 911 call. But just repeatedly, who did this? Why would they do that? Yeah. Was this intentional? Or was this an accident? Meanwhile, she just saw her husband get shot and is laying, in the snow, dying.
That's like Nicole Simpson when the dispatcher's like, "Oh, you mean the
right.
TV broadcaster? Are you sure about that?"
Oh my God.
That's right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back outside, Goodale managed to get out of the car and pulled one of his guns out at DuPont. So
there you go. Okay. All right.
The two engaged in a brief standoff before DuPont lowered his arm, threw his gun in the back seat, and turned the car around, speeding off back to his mansion. At this point, Nancy rushed back outside and to Schultz's body. He was still alive, but barely. She told him she loved him and heard him exhale one last time. Then he died in her arms. She noticed on the back of his hand was written, "Pick up kids," as he had wrote on his hand as a reminder to himself that he had to pick up his kids that day from school. After returning to the mansion after the shooting, DuPont barricaded himself in his library, which he had reinforced as a bomb shelter.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
A lot of the news reports I watched trying to find that 911 call were about this whole barricading. It was like news reports during this whole standoff.
Yeah, and I feel like people might know this story, but they don't realize kind of what happened after the fact, which is what we're about to get into.
Right.
But he went back to his mansion, barricaded himself in the library, which he turned into a bomb shelter. Obviously was not cooperating with the police who had arrived on the farm. Could be speculated that they, were not as aggressive as they typically would be with a typical, suspect of a shooting.
Was anyone else in the house at this point?
In his house?
Yeah.
No. Nobody was living in the house, and you were only allowed to go to the mansion if you were invited. So wrestlers would only show if he invited you.
And there's audio of negotiators talking to him on the phone and stuff.
Yeah. And he's going on about how it's holy ground and this is against his rights and they have no legal right to be there, and just really not making any sense at this point. Police claimed they were not attacking the home or apprehending him out of caution because they knew DuPont had a very large collection of firearms and they were trying to avoid a shootout. Eventually, 70 officers, 30 of whom were SWAT team, surrounded his home. DuPont had enough food and water stocked up to survive weeks. And like Dave, you said, phone conversations with negotiators failed to bring an end to the standoff as DuPont would just ramble on about how he needs people off of his holy ground.
SWAT guys live for this shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Right. And they're not kicking in windows.
Yeah.
In Christmas Vacation, they kick in a window when they think there's a simple abduction of fucking, his boss.
Yeah, someone's given a stand down order here that, come on.
Meanwhile, this guy's just there in his library.
Fucking around, doing whatever.
Yeah. He was also on the phone with his attorney a bunch throughout this time, not understanding why he couldn't make this problem go away. Just, saying, give them money, pay them off, or tell them it's me. Why won't they go away? Why are they bothering me?
Another uber wealthy guy, like shocked at the,
Right.
when he can't make everything go away. Actual consequences for his actions.
But there is part of me that, like, I'm not sure he realized what he did.
Maybe it's
Like-
that growing up rich and be able to do this, to buy everything in life.
Yeah.
Mixed with mental illness,
With the-
just
and-
make something like murder seem like I'll
Right.
buy out of it.
And by no means am I sticking up for John du Pont. I think he's a piece of shit, person, and Dave Schultz was an awesome guy. But I think at this time, du Pont truly didn't realize, like, I just killed the one guy that I trusted.
Yeah.
Why is everyone coming after me? And that in his mind, he couldn't understand. Anyways, eventually, police shut down the boilers to his mansion and cut his power. So remember, this was Pennsylvania in the middle of January. It got freezing in the home really quick. And on the phone, du Pont cut a deal with negotiators where they would let him exit the home to go to his garden house where the boilers were so that he could fix the boilers, turn them back on, and get his heat restored. Well, when he exited the home to do this, 6 SWAT team members moved in and arrested him. After 50 hours, the standoff ended.
50 hours, whatever.
50 hours, this guy.
His stun grenades would be going through our windows with tear gas in like
Right.
20 minutes.
Right.
Fuck off.
And what's crazy, like, this was an Olympic athlete, an Olympic gold medal athlete who was killed. Like, this was big
American
news.
hero, if you will.
This was a big news story. This wasn't just some guy shooting another guy and one of them happened to be rich.
Yeah.
Dave Schultz was well known.
The negotiators, when he called or when they talked to him and made that deal that he could go turn his heat back on, they're like, sure thing, pal. Go ahead.
Crank that boiler up. It must have got shut off.
All right, we will allow that, but then you must come out within one day. And even still, like, when the SWAT team members approached him, they like told him to freeze. He turned and looked and then tried to run back, but then saw them like pull their guns and then like just stopped and gave in. So the next month, in February of 1996, at a court hearing, it was determined that du Pont would stand trial for murder, but he would first have to be evaluated to make sure he was competent enough to do so. He was denied bail due to the 2-day standoff he had with the police. Over the next several months, du Pont was pretty much uncooperative with the psychiatrists and psychologists who tried to assess him. In September of 1996, du Pont was ruled incompetent to stand trial as experts testified that he was psychotic and he could not participate in his own defense. He was ordered to a mental hospital, and his condition was to be reviewed by the court in 3 months. One of the defense's expert psychiatric witnesses described du Pont as a paranoid schizophrenic who believed Schultz was part of an international conspiracy to kill him. He said du Pont believed people would break into his house and kill him, and that he had installed a variety of security features in his house. After receiving some treatment in December of 1996, du Pont was found competent enough to stand trial, which would begin in January of 1997, almost 1 year to the date of the shooting. Du Pont's attorneys formally entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. The insanity defense, however, was thrown out by the court, and on February 25th, 1997, a jury found du Pont guilty of third-degree murder but mentally ill, which meant the sentencing would be referred to a judge, Patricia Jenkins. She could have sentenced du Pont to anywhere from 5 to 40 years in prison, but on May 13th, 1997, du Pont was sentenced to 13 to 30 years incarceration and was sent to the State Correctional Institution, Mercer, a minimum security institution in the Pennsylvania prison system. 13 to 30 is a bit odd. Like, that's just kind of,
Pretty random.
yeah.
Yeah, that's weird sentencing guidelines.
I'm going to send you to jail from 1 to 100 years, and we'll see.
Right. See how you do, pal.
Yeah, we'll see, Gypsy. I'll take your tears. Du Pont's attorneys filed an appeal, but in 2000, the United States Supreme Court upheld the verdict. In January of 2009, du Pont was denied parole, and on December 9th, 2010, du Pont died while in prison from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, commonly known as COPD, at the age of 72. After his murder trial ended, Nancy Schultz filed a wrongful death suit against du Pont. The amount of the settlement was never officially disclosed, but it's been rumored that Nancy received at least $35 million from du Pont. Nancy would then go on to found the Dave Schultz Wrestling Club so that the wrestlers who had left Foxcatcher had a place to train and continue, on their path for Olympic and world championships. She would also assist them in raising the money they needed to continue to train. As the entire wrestling community mourned the death of the beloved Schultz, the athletes gathered in Atlanta, Georgia for the 1996 Olympic Games. Many of the wrestlers dedicated their performances to Schultz. Nancy Schultz attended the games with her children, Alex, who was 9 at the time, and Danielle, who was 6. In a time of healing, she was greeted and embraced by wrestlers from all over the world who stopped by to pay their respects and share their memories of Schultz. This was Nancy's way of finding closure and how she felt was the best way to say goodbye to her husband. Prior to the start of that year's games, wrestler Kurt Angle, who considered Schultz his friend and mentor, told the media, quote, "I know Dave is with me. I can feel him and it gives me strength." Angle would go on to win a gold medal that year with a broken frickin' neck. And he dedicated his win to Dave Schultz.
With a broken neck, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And that's his famous line, is with a broken frickin' neck. So that's the story of the murder of Dave Schultz. This was the Olympics that he was supposed to be at and make his comeback. And everyone said he looked primed. He looked good. He was older up there in age, but he was ready to go. And, his life was taken.
It's a shame.
Kurt Angle then ended up signing with the WWE and began wrestling for them in late 1999. And Kurt recently said his entire first year in the company, he wore a singlet that was the exact singlet that style that Dave Schultz wore when he won, I believe, his Olympic gold medal as a tribute to Schultz.
That's cool. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Crazy, different story.
And DuPont ended up leaving most of his estate to some Bulgarian wrestler guy.
A Bulgarian wrestler that, just random, they met at a world championship. They were close. And that Bulgarian wrestler was close with the Schultz family. They lived on Foxcatcher Farm. Their kids grew up together. But they said, it might be in the Netflix, the Team Foxcatcher documentary. After Dave died, the Bulgarian wrestler they kind of disappeared from the family. They didn't really hear from them ever again. Maybe because, DuPont left them his fortune. But yeah, their kids grew up together and they were good friends. And, it's like a little community there on Foxcatcher Farm.
Yeah,
there's all those houses.
Sounded great,
and, the wrestlers are living in homes or in dorms and stuff like that. And, if you got invited to the mansion, you could. And I think Kurt Angle told a story on his podcast recently where he got invited to the mansion. They were eating pizza. And DuPont came to him and was and said something like, "Kurt, I know you hide in these walls at night." and he's like, "I just want you to know I know." And Kurt's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I'm just trying to eat some pizza, have a cheat meal, and then I'm going to go back and start training."
Right.
Just stuff like that, random crazy stuff. He'd invite you to the mansion and then he'd make you watch hours of footage. And they said it would literally be of the trees on his property. Hours of watching the trees. And DuPont was convinced there were shadows and figures in there hiding. And they're like, there's nothing there.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. It's blowing in the wind. That's why. That's why you watch that footage.
I guess so. Well, someone should have smartened Dave up to that, I guess.
Well, it's sad. It's a sad story. Unchecked mental illness. That's what can happen, I guess.
Yeah, and watching there's home videos of Dave Schultz with his kids, and he's just the ultimate family guy. He just looks like a cool dude. And then you watch the Foxcatcher movie with Steve Carell and which one I call it plays him, Mark Ruffalo. He's the most likable guy you could ever want to hang out with.
Yeah.
He's just such a sweet, caring guy. The movie focuses a lot on Channing Tatum, who plays Mark Schultz. Did you see the movie, Ian?
No, I didn't see it.
Don't watch it because you don't want to see Steve Carell. No, it's okay. The Foxcatcher documentary on Netflix is the best. You don't want to see Steve Carell as a piece of shit. Yeah. At least I don't. I want to see him making shitty jokes in an office and getting himself in debauchery and hijinks ensue. But anyways, I don't know.
I think it's an interesting flip on unchecked mental illness. A lot of times you get, guys like Richard Chase or people that didn't have access to it.
Yeah.
And just when you have money like that and you're padded,
it's a different sense of loneliness. You're not the lowest part of the social class. You're the upper part, but you've distanced yourself from everyone. Plus you're kind of awkward. So you have no real friends.
And then just because of the family around you and that padding, I don't know what I'm trying to say. We'll leave it at that.
It's just a different outcome.
And the only, and like, I think the people that reached out to him, I think thought it was more of like an alcohol or drug thing as opposed to mental health. And he was never going to admit to any of that. Probably even mental health either. But, you know, the only ones that were reaching out were the ones who he was literally, you know, taking care of to be there. So very odd.
I wonder how early on this stuff started for him.
Yeah, that's what we were talking earlier. Like we didn't know till like the 30s or till he was in his 30s at least. But
And do you think often it's an embarrassment for the family where they're like, they don't want to acknowledge it. They just brush it under the rug because someone, you know, with our stature doesn't, you know, wouldn't be afflicted with this kind of problem.
That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So it goes unchecked.
Like Richard Chase's mom unchecked it. And then now you have like this guy whose family probably didn't check it because embarrassed, like you said.
Yep.
But then it's a whole different problem because he has access to millions of dollars.
Right. Sure.
Well, yeah, too, because then what are you going to do? Like back in that day, you don't send him to a mental institution. That's below them.
Right.
Like you don't do anything like that. And realistically, I mean, mental institutions were not great back then. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like what might they have known or seen? The guy was this, you know, crazy. He'd go in his backyard and just start shooting off guns just randomly. There's video of him like just shooting like, you know, machine guns and assault rifles off his back patio into nothing while people just film him.
I know I say it every time we talk about this, but like statistically, people with schizophrenia or like severe mental illness aren't violent, but when there's all those warning signs there and things are getting progressively worse, if they don't get help, that's right.
Because he felt he was being attacked, so he needed, you know, there was a threat somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a sad story. All right, you guys got anything else with the murder of Dave Schultz, Team Foxcatcher?
I got the difference between freestyle and Greco-Roman, if you guys would like to hear it.
Let's hear it.
I'm interested to see if I'm right.
All right. Freestyle is different from Greco-Roman simply because Greco-Roman does not allow scoring below the waist. No leg attacks or trips. The main difference between freestyle and folk style is that in freestyle competition, you do not do anything while you're on the bottom besides trying not to get turned.
So
Does that make sense?
So there's no, you're not going to shoot on someone's legs in Greco-Roman.
So that makes sense with UFC when they hold somebody up against the cage.
You're only going up or body
there you go.
Throw them down. Okay.
Glad we could clear that up for everyone.
Greco-Roman sounds just intense then. Like just, it's like eye to eye with the guy the whole time.
I feel like those are like really strong guys.
Yep, probably.
That you can just stand there and push against each other.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks for clearing that up, Dave. People have been wondering this whole episode, I think.
Oh, I know.
Ian, any final thoughts?
No, good episode.
Yeah, good job, Mike. Thanks for doing that.
I hope people enjoyed it. Patron shout outs. We got a few new patrons this week. Thank you very much to Lauren Huey, Catherine Marie Schusler, Andy Birkin, Patty C, Hap P. Roy, or Hey P. Roy, Kristen Wetzel, Bailey Sensabaugh, Blake C. This one kind of came out funky in the notes, but Ulrika Purvison. We'll try our best with that one. I might owe an apology on that. Brody Robertson, Dalton Jolis or Jolies, Nathan Maude, Jose Solis, Nikki B, Sophie Maslin, Chelsea Connor, Michael Carrillo, and Tabor DeRoyne. We are at patreon.com/Necronomipod. Thank you guys very much. Ian, what do you got?
For iTunes, I have one for MCMR94, Guitar Freak 22. They want to know if you watch AEW, Mike.
What is it? What is the name?
Guitar Freak 22.
Well, Mr. Freak 22. I like AEW, but we usually record on Wednesday nights, so I don't get to often see it. But I'll tune in when I can, and then we watch the pay-per-view sometimes. I like it. I like AEW.
Yeah. Good answer, Mike.
Yeah, that's a truthful answer also. Yeah. Didn't even make anything up.
And Manda Betch, thank you guys for the awesome reviews.
She is a betch. Dave, what do you got?
I don't have a thing.
Not a single thing.
Not a single solitary thing.
He blew his load with that Greco-Roman freestyle.
That's all I had.
That was the last of
I
his
got that
efforts
out, and now I'm taking a nap.
on the Sunday night. And you're about to watch Roman Reigns and Edge go for the WWE Universal Championship.
Now I'm going to kick you guys out, and I'm going to bed.
So, all right, we are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Necronomipod, patreon.com/Necronomipod, amazon.com, search Necronomipod. We appreciate you guys listening, and check you later.
All right, you guys ready for a cool down beer?
Cheers.